Hi, everyone. My name is David Kelly. I'm the Program Director for the eLearning Guild, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to another Twist Conversation. Today I'm pleased to welcome Julia Graham from Double Dutch. Welcome, Julia.
Hi, David.
Hi, we're partners with you on our app for our conferences, and we wanted to spend some time today talking to you about one of the exciting things we're going to be testing at the mLearnCon conference and expo this year. We're going to be looking at testing the iBeacons technology, which is a brand new technology that is available that can interact with your smartphone, and we're going to be doing some simplistic tests with this at mLearnCon so people can see this iBeacon technology in action. So to kind of give people an idea of what it is, can you give me an idea from a technology standpoint what an iBeacon is, how it works, and kind of what it does, just from a tech standpoint?
Sure thing.
And I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Oh.
So give me introduce yourself first.
No problem. Yeah, so I'm a product manager here at Double Dutch, and we are a startup based in San Francisco. And we produce mobile apps that focus on capturing and surfacing data from meetings, events, and conferences. So we've done quite a few events with the eLearning Guild and looking forward to many more. And particularly coming up at mLearnCon, when we're going to be rolling out our first feature that uses iBeacon. It's going to be really fun. So a little bit about the technology itself. iBeacon is really Apple's branding for a technology that's existed for a while now. It's Bluetooth LE, which stands for low energy. So iBeacon was rolled into the iOS platform and released at WWDC last year. So basically, it's a Bluetooth 4.0 powered technology that enables compatible devices, both on iOS and Android, to send and receive data when they're nearby to one another. So in my world, I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I try to dispel is that iBeacon, most people think about iBeacon as being like a physical piece of hardware, like a beacon that you would sort of put in your space, and that's where the signals would come from. But it doesn't have to be. So that's actually how we're looking at developing features, is using the APIs that Apple has made available to developers to build beacon technology into the application itself. So any iOS device that supports Bluetooth 4.0 and higher, so that's like the iPhone 4S and above, that's running iOS 7, has the potential to act as a beacon. So just a little background there, and that's how we're thinking about developing features that use this technology.
Excellent. So, and one of the reasons that we've partnered with you guys on the last couple of conferences that we've done is we're always very interested in being at the forefront of technology, testing new things, seeing what things are going on, and the apps that you guys have been giving us have really been on the cutting edge of what conference apps offer to attendees. We've really enjoyed the apps that you're doing, and loving the fact that at mLearnCon we're going to be testing this new beacon technology. And I believe what we're going to the technology or the application of this iBeacon technology that we're going to be using at mLearnCon is called head count. Okay. Can you give me an idea of what that is, that experience that we're going to be testing at mLearnCon?
Sure thing. So head count is basically a way for event organizers to really easily deploy iBeacon technology to capture information about which attendees are attending which sessions at their event. As I mentioned, it's really, really easy for organizers to set up. So I have a test version of an app that we're testing it this week. So I don't know if you can really see my screen there. But the big green button in the middle, basically to enable this device to start advertising as a beacon, all the event organizer has to do is tap that button. So basically the organizer, let's say they want to set up a beacon for a particular session, they'll log into the event app, they'll navigate to that session, tap a button, and then they have a beacon that's advertising. And any attendees that have logged into the event app and are using a supported device will then be able to receive notifications related to that session. Specifically, what we're looking to do are send notifications to nearby attendees and remind them to check in. And in our application, a check-in is really an action that lets an attendee sort of say, I'm here, I'm attending this session. So two things that this is doing. One, it's encouraging more engagement of attendees in the app. And also, another feature for the event organizer is even for attendees that aren't actually checking in, we're also going to be able to show the organizer just who was nearby. So that's going to be visible to the organizer both in the app as well as available in a report that they can look at after the event is over. So that's just a brief overview of how the feature works. And for us, I think it's really just about dipping our toes in the water with some new technology and starting to see what's really possible. It's very early days for a lot of these technologies. When we think about Android, there's actually only about 10% of all Android devices that are in the market today can even receive notifications like this. So we're looking at just putting something out there, seeing what kind of adoption we can get, what it looks like in terms of the number of attendees at an event that can even use these kinds of features before we continue to develop more of these features down the line.
Oops, I was on mute, sorry. I have a dog barking in the background, so I was on mute. One of the things that interested me as I was listening to you was what you're describing is not a learning metric in terms of how many people learn. It's very useful for me from a conference organizer standpoint, that sort of data that it collects, but it's not necessarily a learning metric. But it still is very powerful, because one of the reasons that I love the mobile learning discussion is historically, when it comes to technology that people use for learning, they're talking about how to use learning technologies to help people learn and do their jobs better. Emphasis on learning technologies. When we start looking at mobile, it's not about learning technologies anymore. It's about technology. It's about mobile technology and how can we use it to help people learn. So it's technology that's just embedded into people's lives anyway. How can we leverage that to help people learn and do their jobs better? And for me, that's where something like what you're talking about becomes very powerful, because even though it's not a learning discussion, what I'm hearing as I was listening to you tell that story is I come within range in a device, so there's context of an environment around me, and when I enter that context, a trigger comes to my device that is designed to affect a behavior. That I'm gonna get a prompt on my device. It's gonna tell me to check in. That's essentially contextual based on an environment. I get some sort of an input that is implying and is trying to get me to change my behavior. That's got huge applications for learning. Even though in the context of headcount, if you look at it beyond that and say, well, it's giving us contextual environmental input that is going to affect the behavior or to try and affect a behavioral change, that's got huge applications for learning. And that's what I love about the mLearning discussion, is we're looking at these technologies and saying, all right, this is what it does, but how can we leverage that in a learning and performance environment? So this is, like you said, it's a simplified test, but it's going to give people a taste of how this beacon technology can be used in a learning context, which is really powerful.
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is there are so many applications for these types of technologies, and in my world, in the past couple of years, from organizers, we've had a lot of interest in location-based services that really rely on GPS. However, GPS is no good when we're talking about positioning and location-based applications that need to work indoors. So, when Apple sort of announced support for this technology, there was a lot of excitement in the events world, and the applications that we hear, typically on a consumer side are, you probably heard a lot about the potential in retail, for example. So it is something that Apple is showcasing in their own retail stores now. If you walk into an Apple store, and as you move around the store, you start to get these contextual alerts. So, wherever there's money and sales to be made, there's a lot of excitement there. And I believe I was reading something recently about about Major League Baseball actually rolling out some iBeacon tests in some of their stadiums. So yeah, starting to see some real life usage of the technology in those situations. And I think, from what I've been reading, Apple's been filing a lot of patents, where ultimately the goal is to use this type of technology in conjunction with some other proximity-based data transfer technologies from mobile payments. So further down the line, we're likely to see more of those types of uses for this stuff.
That's excellent. And one of the things that I loved as I was listening to you is, it's starting to answer the question of what this technology means. Because for me, anytime I look at it, when I examine how people can learn through a technology, especially a new technology, I don't start with the learning piece. I look at how people are living with this technology. How is it affecting me on a consumer basis? How is it affecting me in my day-to-day life? And then how does that translate into ways that we can leverage it for learning and performance, rather than trying to shoehorn a learning thing into a technology that's already existing and has some applications? How can the two merge? So the examples that you give are perfect. And as we start seeing this technology evolve and be applications of it that are just out in the world, we can start seeing those parallels and see connections to how we can use them in a learning environment, help people do their jobs better. I mean, even something as simple as, just thinking aloud, I work in an office, or I work in a factory or someplace, and I go to a specific tool or an area that I'm going to be doing some work. It recognizes I'm in the area, and a pop-up comes up and says, do you want to see a quick video tutorial on how to use this equipment?
Yeah, that's
perfect. I mean, there's huge applications for something like that.
You need when you need it.
Exactly, and exactly where you need it. So there's an enormous amount of context to it. I'm thrilled that we're going to be testing this out at mLearnCon, so people can get a small taste of what this sort of interaction with a beacon can look like. It's going to be embedded into the conference app that people are using anyway, correct?
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So we're really looking forward to testing it. It's going to be exactly what mLearnCon is all about, to look at what's going on with the technology surrounding the mobile conversation, and to bring those conversations into learning so that people can experience them and start to discuss amongst themselves, what does this mean for the work that we do? So I want to thank you for bringing this technology, testing it out at our mLearn conference. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're super excited for the opportunity, and I'll also be there at mLearnCon. So if anyone wants to, come chat about iBeacon, then come find me.
I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people taking up on that offer. Thank you for making that. Excellent. Well, if you want to learn more about what's going on at mLearnCon, please do join us later this month, June 24th through 26th in San Diego. You can go to mlearncon.com to get all the details, and you can register today. Julie, I want to thank you again for joining me for this conversation this morning.
Thanks, David.
All right, we will see you a couple of weeks in San Diego. Take care, everybody.